I'll start with the Cardinals since we've talked about the Cowboys a little bit. Obviously, if you follow this podcast, you know that I'm a huge, giant Arizona Cardinals fan. The only reason I didn't wear Cardinals gear today is because I could not find it. Because we just moved and I have no idea where the jerseys are.
We'll cut you some slack.
In my new house. And I didn't want to wear the hat and the Dodgers jersey because it would look ridiculous. I have to look somewhat fashionable on the show. Right?
Okay.
Right? Even though I have it in the past.
Next is going to be a trendsetter over here.
Exactly, yeah. So stupid. But, so what I've noticed from Cardinals camp, and obviously there's so many different questions, and I do want to get your take on what you think about the Cardinals this offseason too. I don't really know what to expect. So we're hearing things. Kyler Murray is in command of the offense. I've essentially heard that every single wide receiver has balled out this training camp, including Keyshawn Johnson, who was a very late draft pick of the Cardinals. He has been the most impressive, which is great to hear because you obviously want your Christian Kirks, your Larry Fitzgeralds, your Andy Isabellas to do well because they're first, second round draft picks, and obviously Larry Fitzgerald's a future Hall of Famer. But to hear that fourth, fifth round guys doing well as well, that's really exciting when we know the Cardinals are going to be primarily offensive based this season. Like that's their thing. So to hear the offense is running really well, and David Johnson's very happy. That's great to hear. I haven't heard anything bad about the Cardinals, besides obviously Patrick Peterson getting suspended 6 months. Or not 6 months, 6 games. That's the only dent you kind of think about when you're thinking Cardinals. Say, okay, this is all great, but we're going to be missing our essentially best player come the first 6 games of the season. So that does suck. But as far as I go, I haven't heard anything wrong with the Cardinals offseason. What do you think about the Cardinals? I know you have a question to ask me about the team as well.
I do, and I'll get to that question in a minute, but I do want to address your comments on how you've been hearing about all the receivers and even the 7th round draft pick receiver doing very well. Of course they should do well. It's an air raid offense.
I know.
Right? And listen, David Johnson is a team player and he's a straight up guy. So yes, he's going to give the correct answer and saying, of course he's happy. Hell no, he's not happy. Are you kidding me? There is no running back in the history of football who has ever been happy with an air raid offense. Because guess what? That means that there are going to be diminished stats for that running back, and diminished stats equals less money in your next contract. So I'm sorry, David Johnson, but you're lying, okay? And you're a team player, you're a great dude, and I hope that you have a very good year, and he will probably have a better receiving year than he does rushing. Because if we know anything with Kliff Kingsbury, they're going to try to have 90 offensive snaps a game. At least 70 of those are going to be through the air. And Kyler Murray's going to be in the shotgun the majority of the game, right? He's not going to be under center in many situations. So, yes, of course the receivers should be doing well because all they do in practice is throw the ball, right? So the receivers and the cornerbacks and the safeties should be getting all the reps, all the work. Because that is all they do. There are probably very few running plays that the Cardinals are doing unless you were in goal line situations. So from that standpoint, yes, I would hope that the receivers are doing well. The question that I did want to ask you, and this is something that I heard earlier this morning on NFL Network, was that, and this happens in just about every NFL training camp, because the rosters right now are at 90 men, it does not go down to 53 until right before the regular season starts. Most teams have to have separate locker rooms for the rookies because they cannot, not every team can fit 90 players in a normal locker room. So for the Cardinals, all of their rookies are in a separate locker room. Some of the Cardinals teammates are reportedly saying, hey, because we know that Kyler Murray is going to be the starting quarterback, we want him in our main locker room so that he can gel and vibe a little bit more with us, right? Do you think that the Cardinals staff should put Kyler Murray in the veteran locker room, or do you think they should keep him with the rookies because he is a rookie?
No, I think he absolutely should be in the veteran locker room.
Really?
Again, we were talking about it actually we probably will talk about it in a second. When we were talking about Ezekiel Elliott's contract off camera before the podcast, we were talking about how it's this big question, is Ezekiel Elliott going to get paid? All this stuff, is Mark Cooper going to get paid? But we all know Dak's going to get paid. It's just when.
Right.
Right? So with Kyler Murray, it's just different with quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are essentially veterans from the day they come in, right? Like if you're the starting quarterback of an NFL team, you need to be with all the veterans because all the veterans play, right? Like the rookies tend to, they need to learn from the veterans, but the quarterback needs to be in the best case scenario. And the best case scenario with the Cardinals is being with David Johnson, is being with Larry Fitzgerald, is being with Christian Kirk, being with all those veteran offensive linemen. That's the best case for him. I think it's kind of silly that the locker rooms aren't all together.
But here's the thing: you just can't fit 90 men into a locker room that's fit for 53.
Well, that's true, but
the locker room is fit for 53.
Maybe we build.
It's not fit for 90.
Maybe we build. Just you build 90 lockers, and then you consolidate them into 53 during the regular season. You take a slot out, right, of the thing, and everyone just has a giant locker, and everyone goes, if I make the roster, not only do I make the roster, I get a bigger locker.
Construction is not first of all.
It's so ridiculous.
Second, okay, so
but
then...
he absolutely should be with that.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. Here's my thing with that. If I am another player on that team, rookie or not, and I see that one of the rookies gets special treatment, quarterback or not... And, because he's going to be the quote-unquote starter.
It's different. The quarterbacks need special treatment. Quarterbacks deserve special treatment.
So I'm looking at their roster right now and their draft picks. Byron Murphy, the second-round quarterback.
He should be with them too.
He should, it's because he's more than likely going to be a starter. Andy Isabella, second-round receiver. He's going to be potentially a starter.
A little different because they have Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk. I don't necessarily.
But if he's going to be a starter, shouldn't he be working with the starting quarterback?
That's why I just said they should have all 90 guys. So
okay.
I'm going to agree with everyone.
Right.
Maybe not like Caleb Wilson, who's Mr. Relevant, but shout out Caleb Wilson. He's from Newport Beach. He threw. Okay, here's a little instance I've never heard of. Caleb Wilson. He's from the Orange County area. Went to UCLA. He threw out the last pitch at the Angels game the other day. You ever heard of that before?
No.
That's pretty cool, right? Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So maybe those guys can be in a different locker room because there's a question of whether they're going to even make the roster. But I think anybody that everyone believes is going to make the 53-man roster should be with the veterans. I think if you're trying to battle it out, you maybe should be getting to know your rookies, all that stuff, and you maybe shouldn't be in every single discussion and all that stuff. But I think the guys that everyone knows are going to be a big part of the offense, or even just for sure going to make the roster, should be with the rest of the team.
Yes, I disagree. I think it's just something about being a rookie. You should still have to carry in all the other teammates' shoulder. Right, pay your dues, and it has nothing to listen. Kyler Murray's a multi-millionaire already. Okay, it has nothing to do. We all know how much he's getting paid. We all know he's going to be a starting quarterback. But it's just something about paying your dues, being a rookie, going along with the flow. I think if you're taking a rookie, like I said, whether he's the starting quarterback or not, and putting him with the veterans and leaving all the other rookies behind, I don't think that sends the right message to the rest of your rookies. And I think that could potentially, have a negative effect on the team. So I think if you're going to do that, you put all the rookies together, regardless of how good, one may be, and you let them go. And then once, every roster is cut to 53 and you get to the regular season, then everyone can come together in the main locker room. But I think if you're going to separate the rookies, no matter where you're drafted, no matter what your status is, I think you all need to stay together, or it's, I think it just sends a bad, negative vibe.
I think the one thing I'm going to get out of this entire podcast is the NFL build bigger locker rooms. All right, this is ridiculous.
Here's the thing.
Why can't everybody just be a team?
So when you get to the regular season and you only have 53 men, and yet you have 90 lockers, that's a lot of wasted space.
So 90 divided by 2 is 45. There's 53 men on the roster. I said everyone gets a big locker, right? You split. Everybody has, speaking of the Cardinals, they're on TV right now while we're sitting here doing this podcast. But, just take a little panel out of one of the things. Everybody has a giant locker, and you can put a TV there if you want, and maybe you can be on your computer, play PS4.
All right. We're getting a little crazy.
I don't know.
Listen, before we transition to the Cowboys, I do want to ask. I know it is obviously you have a rookie quarterback, you have a rookie head coach who has never had any NFL coaching experience before.
Yes.
There's a lot of what-ifs going on with the Cardinals right now. Do the Cardinals have a chance to compete within their own division? I'm not even going to talk about Super Bowl or playoffs. Do they have a chance to compete with the Rams, the Seahawks, and I'm not even going to say the 49ers, but the Rams and the Seahawks?
It's tough to say. I will say this. I will guarantee the Cardinals will have more wins than they did last year. I just don't know how many that is. Because there's just so many. We have a rookie quarterback that we essentially have never seen in the NFL before, that type of quarterback. We have an offense that we pretty much have never seen. And a defense that's there's a lot of new guys, and you're missing your best players. So
Yeah, Terrell Suggs.
right, like I love Terrell Suggs too, and he's a local Arizona guy and stuff like that. And there's a lot of Arizonians and local guys on the team, so it helps with camaraderie as well. But I do think to say right now that they compete with the Seahawks and Rams, I think would be a little ridiculous. Come the regular season, and maybe if they're 3-1, 4-0, something like that, maybe 3-2, you go, okay, yes, then I think they can. But I think right now to say they compete with the Seahawks and Rams, no, I don't think they can right now, just because I don't know anything really about the team.
But remember when Chip Kelly, a couple years back, joined the Philadelphia Eagles, and he was bringing in his new innovative offense and all that stuff? I think this is going to be the same thing that happened with the Philadelphia Eagles and Chip Kelly.
The difference with him, though, is that he had Sam Bradford as quarterback.
Right, and
So
he also had Michael Vick. He also had Michael Vick.
Well, that's true. Michael Vick was past his prime.
They still
He'd been to prison, Jared.
My point to that is when the Philadelphia Eagles unveiled their offense with Chip Kelly, it was like a shockwave. I believe their first game was against the Atlanta Falcons. It was either Sunday night or Monday Night Football, and they blew Atlanta like out of the water, right? And I think the NFL took notice, like, oh my gosh, this is high tempo. No huddling. They were just running defenses out of the gym until teams were able to get film on what Chip Kelly was doing, and they were able to scheme for it. So going to the Arizona Cardinals, I think because we really haven't seen this type of air raid offense in the NFL, I think for the first month or the first half of the season, I think the Cardinals can have some real success.
I do
because other teams don't necessarily know what's coming at them. Once teams get film and they're able to really sit down and scheme against the Cardinals, I think that's when things are going to slow down. So I will not be surprised at all. I don't know the Cardinals' first 4 or 5 games of the season as far as their opponents, but I would not be surprised if they go 3-1, even 4-1, just because of the unfamiliarity. But like I said, I think they're going to take a real dip as towards the midway and the end of the season.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, too, I believe their schedule is a little bit more difficult at the end as well. So
okay,
only do they have the chance of just being able to beat easier teams early in the season, I do believe I'll check on that.
Right, and another part of this as well, when you come in last place in your division, the following year you play the last place teams.
Exactly. Yeah.
So in a sense, looking on paper right now, they have an easier schedule than most other teams. But obviously every year is different. Every team retools. So just based off of last year's results, the Cardinals have a fairly easy schedule as compared to others.
So they have the Lions, they have the Ravens, Panthers, Seahawks, Bengals, and Falcons, their first 6.
Okay, so that's pretty moderate. I would say the Ravens and the Seahawks are probably the toughest opponents on that schedule.
Panthers are not a slouch either.
Right.
But then you have the Bengals and the Lions, who I believe they should beat. I think if the Cardinals aren't 2-3 to begin the season, I think we're looking at another losing season for the Cardinals. But they do play the Giants week 7. They play the Buccaneers, 49ers.
Yeah, no, they have they have it. Like I said, they have a chance to get off to a hot start because of those reasons that we just mentioned. So let's move on to the Cowboys a little bit to kind of wrap up this show. We're running almost a little bit out of time.
About 10, less than 10 minutes to go.
So the Dallas Cowboys, obviously, still America's team in my opinion. They are all over.
You had to say that to start.
Of course. Listen, it's just facts. Okay, look it up. Of course, they are all over your television sets and all over social media. Not only because of the Cowboys, but the fact that Ezekiel Elliott is out, and we have already gone through that. So I do want to talk a little bit more about the rest of the team. Number 82, Jason Witten, the jersey that I currently have on. He is out of the broadcast booth, and he is coming out of retirement to kind of help shore up that tight end position, help give Dak Prescott another security blanket, and I think he will do just that. A lot of people are saying, is Jason Witten going to be able to play every single down? I don't believe so, and I don't think. Listen, Jason Witten's coming back. he lost his captain's locker, right? He lost his parking spot. So he's basically coming back trying to prove himself again. It's not like he came back and the Cowboys are just giving him the keys to the kingdom. He's having to come back and earn his spot. And I think he's going to be motivated to be not only in the best shape of his life, but to come in and say, listen, I'm going to be a team player. Whatever you guys need me to do, I'm going to do. So I love the fact that Jason Witten is back, another leader on your team. Travis Frederick is back off of his illness that he had after missing all of last year. Says that he's in great shape. Obviously he wasn't taking
huge to have that offensive line somewhat similar to what it's been in the past.
Kind of to shore up that line in the center. You still have Tyron Smith and Zach Martin, but to bring Travis Frederick in, hopefully the Cowboys can get back to being the best, or at least one of the best offensive lines that we know that team to be. And I think one of the biggest things that we aren't talking about is the fact that Amari Cooper has his first full season with the Cowboys, right? For those who don't remember, Amari Cooper was traded to the Cowboys almost midway through last year. So he didn't get a chance to go through a training camp or an offseason or anything like that. He basically had to learn on the fly. Now that he's in training camp, he's had a full offseason with the team. He's worked out with Dak Prescott in the offseason. So he should be a lot more familiar with what this team is trying to do. I think that's going to be a big help for Dak Prescott in this offense. So obviously the defense, I think in my opinion, is very elite. Like you mentioned, I think they have one of the best linebacking cores in the league, and Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch. You've got DeMarcus Lawrence, who's that newly signed defensive end on that line. And then in the back end, some people would say that's where the question marks come up. From the cornerback spot, you have Byron Jones, who made his first Pro Bowl last year, and Chidobe Awuzie, who I think is an up-and-coming number 2 cornerback. The one kind of issue I will have with this defense is is the safety position, and I think that's where they need to improve, or they're relying on the veterans that they have. They didn't really go out and add anyone in free agency or the draft. So the Cowboys are okay with the safeties that they have. We'll see what they do, but I think the talent that this team has as a whole, I think they have an opportunity to get to the Super Bowl if they can stay healthy. Because, like I said, the talent that they have is definitely Super Bowl caliber talent. It's whether they can execute and whether they can, get lucky and stay healthy throughout the year. But I expect this Cowboys team to make it at least past the second round of the playoffs. That is the bare minimum for this team. Anything less than that, in my opinion, is a failure. You can only go up with the team that you had from last year and only building on that. So, in my opinion, it's Super Bowl or bust for the Cowboys this year.
That's one of the questions I was going to ask. You answered that for me already. And the other thing about the Cowboys, making the comment about having to win that second round playoff game, I believe, just looking at their schedule, there's a very good chance they win the NFC East, and they could be one of the top seeds. I see them only losing, about 5 games max on their schedule.
Right. Well, here's the thing too. Just like with the Cardinals, they have the 4th place schedule, so they're playing all the last place teams in their division and in other divisions. The Cowboys have a 1st place schedule, so their schedule
but it's
is
still
very
not
tough.
even. It's tough, but you guys, New York and Washington, you guys should beat.
Right, that should be 4 wins.
That should be 4 wins.
Right there.
Green Bay, you should be able to beat. Miami, Buffalo, Jets. Those are all teams you guys should beat. Detroit, I think you could beat Minnesota as well. The difficult games are going to be against Philadelphia, which
right.
I think splitting games against Philadelphia is not a bad thing. I think going 5-1 in your division
right.
is
I know
probably,
they play the Rams this year as well.
Yeah.
That's later in the
year.
year.
They play the Rams. You guys play the Saints.
Right.
You play the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
So those are games where I'm not going to sit here and say the Cowboys are going to win those. I'm not saying they're going to lose those either, but you just can't give them a win straight up. And then you also play Chicago as well.
Right.
So there are some difficult games, but having an easier schedule with that roster and then a couple big games, you're going to win a couple of those big games. That's why I'm saying I see the Cowboys being no worse than 11-5 this year. I was going to ask you Super Bowl bust. You already answered that. 2 more questions really quickly, and then we can end the podcast. 1, if the Cowboys do mess up in the playoffs again, is this Jason Garrett's last season?
Right.
So you're saying yes?
Yes. Yeah.
And then just give me, what is the one X factor that the Cowboys need to do, or who is this X factor that the Cowboys have that will get them at least to the Super Bowl?
Zeke Elliott, because listen,
I
get Amari Cooper, I get Dak Prescott, I get Jason Witten's back.
So you disagree with Jerry Jones then?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Ezekiel Elliott makes defenses bring guys into the box, which makes it one-on-one for your receivers outside. And we already saw last year and half of the season what Dak Prescott and Amari Cooper can do with one-on-one man coverage. So if Ezekiel Elliott is in the backfield, he's going to demand that more guys are in the box, which will open up the passing lanes for Dak Prescott. If Ezekiel Elliott is not there, it is a lot easier for teams to defend this Cowboys team, and then you're going to want Dak Prescott to throw the ball. So, plain and simple, if Ezekiel Elliott is on this team to start the year, then yes, the Cowboys have a very, very good chance. The very last thing I want to say about this team, the one thing that I'm a little skeptical as far as the schedule goes, the Cowboys don't have any back-to-back home games for the regular season, which is a little awkward and a little weird. So they're going to be, home on the road. There won't be any, they'll obviously have their bye week, but they won't have, multiple weeks in a row where they can sleep in their own bed and all that. So we'll see if that plays a factor, but I think it's an interesting dynamic to watch out
That's
for.
an interesting take too, because if you just look at the schedule, you don't notice that a lot.
Yeah, you
right.
don't, but it's literally home away.
And that's maybe where you can see those losses against good teams too. Like for example, you're at Chicago, then versus LA, then at Philadelphia. That's at the very end of the season. So at that point, your record might be good enough to where you don't have to win those games necessarily. But that is difficult, and that's kind of the NFL. Again, being really weird about their schedules and stuff like that.
That's the NFL.
Yeah, and the other thing about that too is that Cowboys are really not meant for the NFC East too. They're not in the East.
Exactly.
So they are having to travel to Washington, Philadelphia, and New York for their games every year. And those are at least 2+ hour, 3-hour flights. I don't know the exact terminology because I've never flown from Texas to the East Coast, but I know I'm taking a flight to Chicago in a month. I know that the flight from Texas to Chicago is around 3-4 hours. So I can imagine what the East Coast is. So, nonetheless, very interesting point. I think we were both. I remember saying this around the draft time. This is the Cowboys' year, and it seems like I can put some of the bias aside, being a Cardinals fan that should dislike the Cowboys, and obviously having to compete with you on this show. The Cowboys are going to be one of the best teams in the NFL, but I agree with you. I do think it's Super Bowl or bust. That's why I was going to ask you. I agree with you. I do think it's Jason Garrett's last season if they screw up again like they did last year. And I think they need to figure out this Ezekiel Elliott stuff because might as well put the roster together like the Rams did last year. They got to the Super Bowl. That was a game thing. I think the reason they lost that in-game decisions. But to get to the Super Bowl, you can't really complain much after that. You lose to the Patriots in the Super Bowl, so is everybody else. So it's not that way. It's like losing to the Golden State Warriors when they were on their trend. So I think that's it for today's podcast.
Yes, great show.
We are going to do one next week at some point. We're going to figure out the day. We're going to get into baseball's trade deadline, kind of analyze who we think are the real contenders. Because this year in the MLB too, the trade deadline is done. It's actually done right now.
Yeah, just ended at 11 o'clock Pacific time.
So there's no more trades. So these are the rosters that everyone's going to have for the rest of the season in the MLB. So we're going to discuss that a little bit later this month because you'll probably be watching, most of you will be watching in the month of August. We're recording on the 31st. Later this month, we are going to do our predictions podcast. We're deciding whether to make that into chunks and do it by division and post about 8 videos on YouTube or something like that. We'll decide on that later, or just have one big prediction podcast. But we're going to do all the analysis. We're going to go through all the rosters and do all that.
For the NFL, by the way.
Yeah, for the NFL, of course, yeah. And without time restrictions with the radio station, we can kind of just do it and have a full discussion and just sit here and talk about football.
That's right.
However,
But we hope you enjoyed this show for today. If you did not catch it, we will put it up on Facebook immediately, and then shortly after, it'll be on YouTube. So send us your comments and your feedbacks. Let us know who your favorite teams are, if you think they have a chance to win. And like Nick just said, in a couple weeks, we will have an NFL predictions show. But that is the end of the podcast for today. I'm Jared Smith.
I'm Nick Nina.
And this is the Cover 2 Podcast.